So, ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, my name is Per. I'm the Swedish ambassador here in Germany. Been around for some almost 6 years. So this is not the first event that I am privileged to host on this theme. And I would like to extend on behalf of the embassy a very, very warm welcome, both to you here in this room, also to those watching upstairs in the foyer, and to the 500 or so who are listening on YouTube. Also a very warm welcome. We're, of course, extremely happy that this subject attracts such an interest to so many people. And as I said, this is a long tradition. For several years we have conducted these talks on sustainable fashion together with the Swedish Institute, lately also with hessnatur, and the City of Borås also as an esteemed partner. And unfortunately we had to halt the series of seminars during the COVID. So the more happy we are that we can now again meet in person and talk about this extremely important subject. As you might know, Sweden is now also the presidency of the Council of Ministers in Brussels of the European Union. We will hold that until the end of June this year. That means a lot of work, especially for our colleagues in Brussels. They will have to pass on some 350 legal acts from Parliament. They will also have to basically run the whole circus. This is the third time that Sweden has the presidency after 2001 and 2009. And of course we take over the presidency at a very crucial time for Europe. We're all aware of the totally unacceptable, unprovoked Russian aggression against Ukraine. And I can tell you this is top priority number 1, 2 and 3 for the Swedish presidency, to continue support for Ukraine and to continue to increase the pressure on Russia and Belarus. But this being said, we have also set 4 more formal priorities for the presidency. The first one is security, European, and unity, because it's only when we as Europeans stick together that we can really achieve something. Second one might be of interest also to you is competitiveness, and this we mean in the long run. The European Union simply has to become more competitive, to make full use of the internal market and to invest more in research and development. Of course, the green transition is very important as well. It includes also the energy transition, where perhaps Putin's aggression will help us speed up the building of sustainable energy in Europe, and where Europe has an extremely important role leading by example worldwide. And fourthly, democratic values and the rule of law. I don't need to mention any countries, but we are very concerned about the development in some of the European Union member states. The other day, you might have seen on TV, the Commission was invited for a first meeting in Sweden, and normally you would take them to the capital, but we thought, why not show the green revolution that is happening right now in Sweden? So we flew them all the way up to Kiruna, which is about 200 kilometers north of the polar circle. That meant it was rather dark this time of year, but a fantastic environment with lots of snow, and where we showcased both the transition that we are in the middle of, producing CO2-free steel at the LKAB mine in Kiruna, but also the new spaceport at Esrange, which will be the first satellite launcher in mainland Europe. And talking of future industries, I think this is one. For me or for us locally, being EU presidency also means visiting 16 states, Bundesländer, something that I'm very happy to do. And we will also, of course, not just have political talks, but we will do a lot of meetings with Swedish companies and try and promote Sweden, Swedish values, Swedish culture, Swedish tourism, and the Swedish economy. But as I said, the green transition is really at the top of our presidency. And looking at the situation worldwide, I think you agree with me that we really need to do much more. We are on a path right now not to fulfill the Paris Agreement and also not the Agenda 2030 that was adopted by the UN in 2015. So we really need to get our act together. And I think we can take some optimism from the way we handled the corona crisis, showing that when the world is really facing a crisis, then we can act fast and we can act united. So let's hope that our politicians and populations realize that the climate crisis is just as acute as was the pandemic. And talking of fashion, that's of course also a big polluter, a big CO2 emitter. I think if you count very roughly, it's about 10% of global emissions coming from the fashion industry. 92 million tons of textiles are wasted every year. And if we talk about the new way of ordering clothes over the internet, that sounds sustainable, but when you know that many of the companies selling over internet, when they get returns, they simply throw it away and make it landfills. So that's why I think we are exactly right when we're talking about sustainable fashion in this context. And so far we've covered fibers, we've covered sustainable production, we've covered sustainable consumers. And today, perhaps also as a symbol of the Swedish EU presidency, we will focus on how for companies to manage sustainability regulations. We will have the privilege of learning from fashion experts both from Sweden and from Germany about best practices and perhaps also what is awaiting us. And I would also like to invite you after the seminar 2 stairs up, where we will have a small reception and of course continue the discussions. The Swedish Institute has a special role to play. You might know that that's a public agency under the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Stockholm, aiming to create relations and exchange between Sweden and other countries. And it's my great pleasure now to pass over the word to Kajsa Guterstam, who is the project manager and during the years has worked intensively with the Troika, Sweden, sustainability and fashion. So without further ado, I will hand over the word to Kajsa for the digital stage. Kajsa, please.
Hello everyone, I am Kajsa Guterstam, Project Manager at the Swedish Institute. It's an honor to be invited to this important event. It's really good to be back after the unintended break due to the pandemic. We all know this is an important subject. I hope you will be even more inspired and convinced by the end of this evening. The fashion industry, as many others, has for the last years constantly raised the level of consciousness when it comes to sustainability. The development we see is that the companies are taking the lead and push decision makers to act now and act bold. This is not pure goodwill for the planet. This is survival of businesses. You need to be at the forefront to be part of this game. And those of you who believe it's possible to crack the sustainability challenge should join forces with Sweden. Sweden aspires to be the first fossil-free country in the OECD. That's a government policy. We want to share the steps we're taking to get there. We want to do the sustainability transition together with you. We are inviting Germany, we are inviting the world to join us on the ride. We love to learn from your best practices, but we need to stretch the boundaries of what is possible. Only together we can pave new ways forward. I wish you most welcome, and I hope you will enjoy this evening.
Yeah, thank you, Per, for the invitation. I'm very pleased that we are resuming this series of events in these beautiful rooms, and my words of welcome I will do in a very short way. You went deeper and better we spend time later for discussions. You know, in fact, this event has a special meaning for me and for our institute. You know. It is in the DNA of our foundation's mission to communicate applied sustainability, and for in this case this format is very important for us, and through the cooperation with the Swedish Embassy, this forum has developed into a special platform. What does it mean? I'm proud that this format is able to deal, that's what you said before, with so many current and exciting topics over the year. You have to know, for me, someone like me, maybe you can call me a pioneer in this area. I'm working for so many times, so I have witnessed the, let me say, evolution from ecology to social to governance. So now we call it ESG, like an accord. I started with this monotone, and now we have this accord ESG. On the stage, we, of course, that's what you said as well, we had many E's, like ecology aspect, we had this S, social aspects, we were talking about working conditions, and so it's a logical step to step now into the governance and regulation topics. And so I'm very excited about our program and our speakers, and looking forward for the keynotes and for the later panel discussion. And now I want to hand over to my colleague Leila. She is our event management, and she will be on stage as a stage host or to moderate this evening. Leila, welcome, please.
Hello, good evening, good afternoon. Hello to everybody here in the auditorium, in the foyer, and in the live stream. We will continue the event with 3 keynotes from international speakers to then head over to the panel discussion. This is where you come in. You can ask your questions in the forum of the panel discussion and see if anything can be cleared up. So we'll end the evening with some delicious snacks, live music, and some networking in the Felleshus in the 2nd floor. This will be open until 8 o'clock. My name is Leila Müller. Thank you, Rolf, for introducing me. I will be your stage host for tonight. This event is streamed live on YouTube, and you have the chance to view the recording afterwards on the Embassy's channel. So let's get to the first keynote speaker. The question is, what are these regulations actually about that we're talking about? And meeting here all together to figure this out. We're glad that our first speaker followed our invitation to come from Sweden. She's a textile strategist and director for smart textiles at the Science Park in Borås in Sweden, and has an extensive experience in the fashion and in the textile industry. She has knowledge in the smart textile, but also in the sustainable sector, and also experience in other industries, such as the automotive industry. Warm welcome, please, for Susan Nederas from Science Park Borås.
The textile industry is really about to take a giant step from being a supplier of fabrics to actually becoming a positive force in the development of the society. And close monitoring your health or measure your movements, and technology that makes it possible to reuse and to recycle textile fibers. But how do we manage this development with all the new upcoming regulations? My name is Susan Naderas, and I'm working as a textile strategist, as Leila presented, at Science Park Borås. And I'm also the platform manager of our government assignment, Textile and Fashion 2030. And thank you very much from the ambassador here, from the Swedish ambassador, and also for having me here today and for me to share and guide you through all these upcoming regulations. And our academic institute, Science Park Borås, at the University of Borås, brings together strategic partnerships across academia, businesses, and also policymakers. And we have been working with more than 500 design and development projects since the start of 2006 in collaborations. And before I go into all the technical regulations, I will shortly introduce you to our environment in Sweden. And we have developed a really strong cluster in Sweden. And in 2013, this fantastic building, Textile and Fashion Center, was opened. And it's in Borås, in the middle of Sweden. And in this house, we have created an innovation platform in a textile context, and with a big offer, with a great network. So here we work closely together, and all organizations in the textile field are represented in this building. In this environment, we also have the Swedish School of Textiles with all the prototyping labs. And together with our Do Tank Center, it creates really our innovation environment. And it gives a very fantastic opportunity to do prototypes and to test new business models, which is a key in this transition. As we have heard previously, and also from the ambassador, of course, the textile and fashion industry, and we all know that is one of the industries that is affecting the world most negative. And in order to take actions, we are working with the government assignment called Textile and Fashion 2030. And here we establish a national platform where Sweden unites for a sustainable textile and fashion industry. And within the platform, we have more than 200 companies connected, and we are driving a number of different activities in order to help all the companies to make this transition, which is really a difficult case. And we are doing a lot of different projects, and here you can see some examples. We are testing new raw materials, we are testing new consumption models, and we also are testing new way of reusing materials. And some examples here, and I will also, before I go into the regulations, inform a little bit about our exposé, which you can see upstairs later on in the reception. The exposé is a tool within Textile and Fashion 2030, and it's a design-driven exhibition concept where we are gathering all these visionary prototypes to get inspirations. And for this event, I brought the pop-up version where I have some of the examples showing from before. But for you that is watching digitally, we also have a digital exposé, so you can just go into the website and you can click in and watch out all the different examples. So that was like a short background, but the main topic for today is to talk about the sustainability regulations within the EU. And here we work in close collaboration with the Swedish Trade Association and also TEKO, the Swedish Textile and Fashion Association. And it's really a complex picture, so I will start to give you an overview of how everything is really connected. In June 2019, the European Council adopted a new strategic agenda for the next 5 years. And the new president of the Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, determined 6 political priorities for its current 5 years of mandate. And the European Green Deal, as you can see on the top, is one of the 6 priorities that was presented on December 11 on 2019. And the Green Deal was highlighted as an important priority within the aim for EU to become the world first climate neutral continent by the year of 2050. And it's an important part of the Commission's strategy to implement the global goals for sustainable development with the Agenda 2030. And the Green Deal, this is a picture and an inspiration that I worked together with the Swedish Trade, and here you can see that the Green Deal can be divided into 2 parts: circular economy action plan, and also sustainable corporate governance. So there are like 2 different sectors here, and for you to have an overview here on the right-hand side, on the sustainable corporate governance side, we have actually 3 major parts. We have the EU taxonomy, which is an upcoming classification system, which will also be for textiles. So it's like a marking system existing today for instance, washing machines and so on. So this will also be something that will be considered for the textile industry. And the next part that is coming is the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive. And this is a new directive that is meaning how to report the sustainability work within the company. The third part in this sector, when it comes to sustainable corporate governance, is the due diligence. And the due diligence describes the process by which companies and businesses are expected to identify, prevent, and account for adverse corporate impact on human rights and also for the environment. On the left side, under the Circular Economy Action Plan, it's more related to the product, to product design, to production processes, to business models, and also how to lead the company with new consumption patterns. And the first package that is coming is in the field of circular economy is the review of the Eco-Design Directive and the regulation, where this will be updated from actually a directive to a regulation. And one part here is the upcoming digital product passport. And the second part to keep an eye on for this left side here is the EU textile strategy, which for sure many of you already seen. It's actually it's a very good one. We are very positive to this one. It's quite an easy document to read. It's 15 slides, so it's a short version if you compare to other things. So it's not so big actually to have a look into. But the strategy can be seen as a framework, as a direction to reach certain set goals. And it contains, for instance, design requirements for longevity, also requirements for reverse overproduction, and also requirements for sorting textile waste, including the extended producer responsibility by 2025. And the textile strategy announced a number of directives and upcoming regulations. Several directives will become mandatory for the member state the coming years. So some head-ups to keep an eye on. The green claims, which is something that will come the next. It's about communication and environmental legislation. And there will be like a proposal for what claims can be made and how this can be communicated. So it's a step against this greenwashing. So with the green claims, there are a big package coming around labelings and washing regulations and fiber contents, and also cleaning up in general for all labeling in the textile industry. And the next is the product passport, which is actually the same as a personal passport. It's an information about the content of the product. But what is actually now working on for this is the technical setup. So later on it will also be implemented. And remaining on the right side here, remaining until 2024, is the Waste Framework Directive, which is connected to the producer responsibility, and also the EU taxonomy, the reporting, and also the due diligence. So finally, some advices to you as a company in order to be prepared. A lot of regulations and directives are coming, that's for sure. But stay calm and prepare the business by actually building knowledge about all of this and how you as a company could handle this. The second advice is to start with the value chain, because here you also could see a benefit of creating a more transparent value chain. Also to get to know your suppliers even better and see how much they know about all these things, and put demands on them to provide solutions which are actually future-proof. And the third, and not less important, is try something new. There are a lot of new available material. Don't be afraid to test some of these materials. It's a good learning process. And also be open to new collaborations. We can see that a number of different collaborations between inside the textile sector, but also with other sectors, other organizations, other in the triple helix structure, because this is nothing that you can do alone. So don't be afraid to collaborate in new context. And testing new business models. See how your company can change and adopt this circular economy with a new business model. And if you are considering a new business model, it could be an idea to create a separate business area so you are not affecting the company's economy. But it could also be good to test this before the legislations are coming. So, by this, I will come to my end of my presentation, and I hope this gives you some inspiration, but also some clarification in this. So thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne. So we've learned collaboration is key, learn something new, do something new, and stay calm. So on that note, we want to look for solutions, we want to get together, and we also want to learn from others. As this event has been born from a Swedish and a German relationship, we're very excited to have a representative of one of, well, Sweden's largest fashion companies there is, H&M. With us today is Henrik Heuermann, Regional Public Affairs Manager at H&M, based in Hamburg, and he has been with H&M for more than a decade. He is a sustainability member and a former conductor, and he's with us today to give us, well, an overview on how H&M is dealing with the topic of regulations, how they're facing these challenges, and and how to stay calm. Hello, Henrik Heuermann.
So I'm from the German area of Ostfriesland, so being calm is in my nature. So that helped. So I'm really bad at PowerPoint, so I just brought one slide, because people tend to doze off when I have too many slides. So I'm just going to give you 4 aspects I want to talk about. First one is something I want to make very clear from the beginning. The acceptance and the orientation towards human rights is not in discussion for us. When we first heard of the new supply chain legislation, we heard of other companies who try to, maneuver around it or influence the legislation. So we immediately said, are you crazy? There's no real argument against human rights. You have to adhere to them. You have to make sure they're respected. The question can only be how to get there and what to report, but not about human rights itself. Okay, that's a given. I want to make that very clear. Second one is the question what if things exist despite the fact that we say they are forbidden? Okay? This is a very German phenomenon, and I hope to be excused here. My experience is that people, especially in the German political sphere, tend to say, this cannot be, so we forbid it. But the effect is, it might still exist, right? So the question still is a legislation enough? Is it, can we be content with, I give you one example. Child labor, of course, is one of the most instant topics that everybody mentions when it's about textile production, right? But the question then is, if we say there cannot be child labor in our production, will this mean there is no child labor? Or do we have to work with the suppliers, go down there, make sure we have systems in place to reward good behavior? Because in fact, if there is child labor, we want to know. We want suppliers to have such a good relation to us to tell us we have an issue. We much rather know about problems than just saying, no, we said there cannot be child labor, so you have no child labor. It's not that simple. So there's one aspect I would love to talk about tonight, and especially later if you have questions. Third aspect I want to mention is, what if it's a process? And again, I'm speaking from my experience in the German field. Maybe I'm wrong, but my impression is that especially German politicians, especially male politicians, tend to think there's a list of white and a list of black. And you have very sustainable heroes and you have the evil ones. What if there's a large gray zone? I'm not talking about human rights, but I'm talking about the path to be a very sustainable company. What if there are some more advanced in some areas, but not in others? How would you rate that? And we have been saying this for years, and there's a nice German expression I use, wir haben uns den Mund fusselig geredet. It's really, we have spent years and years to convince people all over the world it's a process. There is no black and white. You have to make sure suppliers fulfill a certain minimum requirement, but then if you want them to develop further, you have to guide them. You have to give them something, right? So we have seen many times that it makes more sense to think about the way you talk to your suppliers in a partnership and make sure you're moving in the right direction rather than just judging into black and white. Okay? Last one, and this is really key for us. What if the workload to adhere to those legislation is so high that you cannot do the work on the ground, right? So we are seeing now as a big brand in many countries, we're seeing that we have requests in Germany and then some requests in the Netherlands, some in France, some in Spain. And if we don't pay attention, if we don't make people understand it's about a harmonized European approach, we spend so much time into fulfilling all the reports, we just don't have enough time to really make a difference on the ground. Okay? So this is a balance too, and this is something it's nobody likes to hear, but especially for big brands, the workload increases if you have so many different legislations in those countries. You have to make sure you fulfill all of them. So we, as a brand, much rather say we want to have one request on the European level, and then we work towards it, and the rest of the time we actually do the work on the ground. So with this, I'm good in time, I think. I try to stay calm, and yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Hendrik Heuermann from H&M. So now we heard a perspective of one of the largest Swedish and, well, international brands. But what about SMEs? The hessnatur Stiftung has been working particularly in the SME sector to give clearance and knowledge in that field. And we have a lot of SMEs among our guests here in the auditorium and on the live stream, I hope. So the question is, how do SMEs deal with these regulations, even if they might not be obliged to do so yet? Luckily, we found an SME that is particularly interesting, not just because they are a brand and have products, but also because they have a manufacturer, they manufacture products, they have a weaving station, and yeah, they're particularly interesting from that point of view. I'm looking forward to hearing from Andreas Schmidt, CEO for Sales and Marketing from the company Fraas.
Thank you, Leila, and a big thank you to the hessnatur Stiftung and also the Swedish Embassy for the opportunity to be here and be that representative of the German Mittelstand. Yes, as you've said, we're rather the little guys here, a small company, but the German Mittelstand is always named to be the so-called backbone of the German industry. So I'm hoping I can also be a good representative of all the companies who are out there, and I can speak a little bit for them as well. But before I do that, allow me 1 minute also to do a little introduction of our company. No epic introduction, don't worry, but to let you know also what empowers me here to stand here and talk about sustainability. And so we are, together with my brother, we are the 5th generation of our company here. And this gentleman here on the left-hand side, Valentin, he was our great-great-grandfather. And he started this company with a small weaving mill in a very typical traditional textile region in Upper Franconia. And from there on, it has been built over the generations what apparently today is the biggest scarf manufacturer in the world. And over those years, we've always stayed true to 2 things. The one is our manufacturing heritage, and the other thing is that product that we are producing. We are in a niche. We produce textile accessories, mainly scarves and other textile accessories. So, but what is very special about us is that, and when I look at sustainability today, I look at it from 2 sides. On the one hand side, we are a manufacturer, and that's the biggest part of our business. We have a manufacturing facility in Germany where we come from, but my brother has also lived in China for 4 years where he has built up a factory of equal size meanwhile. So, and with this factory we produce a lot of for a lot of big brands around the world, private label, white label, OEM, however you want to call it. But at the same time also, we have our own brand, which is Fraas, the scarf company. And sometimes the rules are a little bit different here. So these 2 aspects apply when I talk about sustainability. Of course, what is sustainable about us? Now you could say that there's a lot of sustainable aspects about the German Mittelstand already. Companies, you're looking at companies who have a very close bond with their people, with the community, with our Gemeinde, and decisions are truly taken for the long run, also so that company sustains maybe even into the next generation. But honestly, it's not enough. It doesn't give us a free pass here that everything that we're doing is sustainable. So we need also these proofs. We need these regulations which we're talking about today. So we've certainly also invested in these proof of concept here, and all what has started with Oekotex or with Woolmark now. We have measured our CO2 footprint, are offering CO2 neutral products, but not to compensate CO2, but with the true intention to minimize the CO2 emissions. Recycling products is very, very important. Meanwhile, GRS, and what I believe also, meanwhile, is very, very interesting is circularity, cradle to cradle. And we're not certified yet, but we are starting to get our head around it. We're becoming innovative, as Susanne, you have said. We're trying new things, and I have a big belief in cradle to cradle. It's actually, to me, very true sustainability. But what are the challenges and the opportunity for a small company like us? Many times they point in the same direction. What is a challenge can become an opportunity, and sometimes the other way around. But to give a short overview, of course, there is a jungle of certifications out there. And the ones that I have just mentioned with a private nature, more or less. But now also we are looking at state or official regulations, some run by the German government, sometimes some by the European governments. How can we harmonize those? Because it creates a lot of cost also and complexity on our side. My sustainability manager, who's here with me, Frank, he has certainly lost a few hairs over the last 5 years on this subject, and and we need to help him also. The marketing cost for a small company like us is high, and we know sustainability is all about communication. Our father always said, "Tue Gutes und rede darüber." This is, if we don't do it, it's not worth it. But us as a small company, we don't have these big advertising budgets also to run big pull campaigns. We need the help of maybe some of our bigger partners here to run this, and also by the governments to establish these seals and these proofs. So here again, we need some help. And I hate to say it, but we are many times, especially from a private label perspective, we are realizing that price still continues to play a very, very important role. And sometimes the cost for sustainability is a little bit passed down the value chain. And us as a manufacturer, we're a little bit at the end of the value chain. So again, here we need to help how to partner. And then I need to talk a little bit not about greenwashing, and it's everywhere, but here I can give you maybe a small field report from our Chinese factory. This is in Zhangjiagang, and I've talked to my brother this week very intensively to prepare a little bit for this, and also our folks in China. And I have to mention here that there is a big industry out there. We call it the red envelope industry in China, who's constantly approaching us to say, "Do you need certificates? Certainly, I can work with you. I can work with you there, and to make it easier on you, because I know it's a big pain for you. It's a big pain point. So here's an easy way to do that." And here's an official, and I give you an official invoice for that, but also here's the red envelope at the end of the day. And of course, we deny that, because when we said whenever we do sustainability, we want to do it authentically, we want to do it true, but it takes longer, of course. And if we lose an order against the company down the road who is open to this red envelope business, we don't create a value driver. Yeah, and this again, we need help. So I hope that's not too provocative, but I thought it's important that I mention it, because it's something that clearly concerns us, and it's a big obstacle. So, but then let's get to the opportunities. And Rolf has asked me, what are the value drivers behind sustainability in a small company like us? And I have to say, we are still in the process of finding out. I can't say, is it a value driver yet? The return is still to come. But we are convinced that if we sort out some of those challenges and we all contribute together, that we can do something for a Mittelstand company which we've always been about. And this is building long-term partnerships with our customers. customer lifetime value. You know, when the globalization started in the textile industry, supplier hopping was common practice, yes, and we were beaten over the head on price every week, honestly. Now we have an opportunity if sustainability becomes a USP, and these regulations maybe can help us there to create a USP. I think we can be a company that wins with that. And in practical terms, I always talk to my directors in the sales department. One of them is here also, Christian. And I said there's two approaches, defense and attack. Sometimes we need to use sustainability to defend a business because it needs to be sustainable, because otherwise it goes away. But it's not going to be enough because the cost is there. So we need new business, we need new projects, we need new partners out there who are looking for suppliers who are truly sustainability. So here's not to become anecdotal here, but we have an award in the company. It's called the OS Scarf, and it goes out. It appreciates or it honors one of the great sales performance. We've done it over the years, and we said this year the OS Scarf goes green. So it is appreciating or honoring a sales representative out there who creates tremendous value in the field of sustainability, who utilizes all these tools here to create value. And this is about to come in 2023. And what I wanted to tell you is that this is how we look at it, to create a value driver within the field and the tools of sustainability. So, and one last thing, which I really believe is very important. I mean, everything is nothing without having the right people. And I believe that also these regulations can help us also to become that sustainable company and be more attractive on the job market. There's a whole generation out there who cares a lot about the values of a company. And that's why we get a lot of young people also who come to us and says, hey, you are CO2 neutral. I find that attractive. I want to work for a company like that. And that's another value driver in our world. Yeah. So I think I come to an end here, and I think Rolf also has mentioned this many times. It's going to work, and that's our petition really to all the stakeholders here, to our governments. We need to harmonize the standards. Maybe there's a way of where our governments can rather incentivize us than over-control us. Yes, we're measuring our CO2 footprint, we are offsetting that. Maybe there can be a break at the end of the day of the year, of the financial year for that. Maybe there's a way of looking. I'm not a macroeconomic expert here, but I believe incentivizing is always better than punishing. Yeah. But still, to these institutes we're working with, and to the governments, we have to find a way to abandon corruption. To our retailers, I would say, and to our partners, let's find a way how we can share some of the cost and find a common communication strategy. And to us as the suppliers, we simply have to say, let's hang in there, let's stay calm. We know it's not black and white. There's a lot of gray zones, and let's have the staying power. Let's comply. Let's deal with these new rules and regulations. Let's comply, and let's work together. This is going to be our job. And then at the end at WeFras, we always say, sustainability is like a perfect scarf. It has to make you feel good. So thank you very much for your attention.
Test? Yes, great. Okay, so what have we heard? We heard some basics. We heard developments. We heard how a large company and a small company deals with these regulations, how Sweden and Germany deal with these regulations. But I bet there's still a lot of open questions here. And a lot of open questions, especially on my part, are regarding legislation and governmental management, basically. Which is why I'm very, very happy that today we have a representative of the BMZ, in English, Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development. Actually, we have, as a guest today, Annette Seidel, Head of Division 121 for Sustainable Textile Supply Chain and Sustainable Consumption. The BMZ has been, well, really important in the passage of the German LKSG. And with us in the discussion with Annette Seidel will, of course, be our three keynote speakers, Suzanne Nederas, Hendrik Heuermann, and Andreas Schmidt. Please welcome.
Thank you very much. Andreas, of course, some of us lost some hairs on the way. I absolutely agree. But it was very interesting when you were talking about the value driver, and absolutely agree. And Susan, this is what you told. This you were talking about this paradigm shift, and this is what I always say. Paradigm shift means we have to look deeper in the textile change. That something in our mind has to change. I absolutely agree, and we have to agree that everything, Hendrik, is in process. And I love this when you said, no, not to look black and white. We have to agree that it is in process in one hand, and it's a gray zone, and it needs step by step. And I really like what you said. Okay, in one hand, we need some reports and work on this, but in the other hand, you said, we want to do our work. I remember when I started years before at hessnatur, I had the same situation. That is, in the meanwhile, more than 10, maybe 15 years before, people asked me for the first report, and I said no, because I don't like to do it, because I want to do sustainability in practice and not to work with my team with 8 people for 3 months. But in the meanwhile, so many things changed, and we have to learn, we have to agree. And that what I said before, what I learned is that is an ESG. In the meanwhile, it's not only ecology, it's an accord. And some of you know us in our institute. We are talking about an holistic approach. That means definition of sustainability for us in our institute is 7 pillars in the meanwhile. So, and this regulations is something we have to do, but what I have in mind is to go deeper in discussion with you experts, and do we have a chance to see this is it is a value driver as well. So let me start with some first questions. Susan, you were talking about the EU regulations, and so we have a tradition for many years, and we're talking with German and Swedish brands and institutes, and what we realized later on is the impulse from the BMZ with the Lieferketten-Sorgfaltspflichten. I'm interested. How do you preserve the role of Sweden and Germany in the activity of EU regulations, Susan?
Well, I would say that Sweden is working towards this harmonizing, following the recommendations, what is coming up, but maybe not pushing for new things in that perspective when it comes to the EU regulations. But also we can see that the government is really good in financing new upcoming projects in order to help companies and other organizations to work and also to help these companies, because there is a big gap between where the companies needs to be and what is actually coming. So there we believe that the government, the Swedish government, is really pushing this forward in supporting. And we also found now last week that they are continuing the government assignment of Textile and Fashion 2030. So that is also really positive news. When it comes to Germany, I believe that Germany is one step ahead there, more active in this, and really more maybe into more putting new ideas for the recommendation, and more playing a more active role.
That makes me a bridge to Annette. That was great to see, and our institute was a little bit involved in some of these processes. And I remember I had a different discussion with the minister in the past who was waiting for results in the textile business, and you were taking up these issues. And but my question is, how for today, Annette, how do you see the role of the BMZ? Because for me, in one hand, it was a very interesting thing to see that that first impulse from Grüne Knopf and this Lieferketten Sorgfaltspflichten that comes from your ministry. And yeah, Annette, how do you think? How is your role now and for the future?
Thank you for the question. Also for thank you very much to the Swedish Embassy and to hessnatur for inviting us. I think it's just a very challenging time, and it gives us a lot of open doors this year, and we're moving ahead like never before. I think this is what we all experience. Thanks all to the keynote speakers for the black and white, and also for the green scarf, which I really like so much. Yeah, so thank you so much. You were asking what we did in the past. I think we were the driving force behind the Lieferketten Sorgfaltspflichtengesetz. It's kind of surprising because we were. I'm coming from a development cooperation ministry, so one might not expect to be this as part of our actions. But we are thinking. We're having a global approach that we are thinking about supply chains and what happens if we act as a customer, and what happens to the people in Asia and Africa and everywhere. So we were the driving force behind the legislation in Germany, and we will definitely continue to have an active role in the future. So we are in part of the development of the European directive, and we put the European directive as a central point of the German EU presidency, as you just mentioned on your side, and we are just sure that we need an ambitious and coherent legal framework that provides legal certainty and proper access to rights for vulnerable people all over in the world, and also for trade unions and non-governmental institutions and organizations to enforce the rights of injured parties. I had the division 121, which is sustainable textile supply chains and sustainable consumption. And as you just rightly said, we are the one in charge for the green button. And this is like years ago when it started. I think you have been part of it for I don't know, centuries, more or less. And we are also... it feels like, yeah. And we are also working with H&M, and we are busy with the partnership for sustainable textiles, which is a complex and challenging thing, like it always has been. And we also help consumers with our portal at Siegelklarheit. And what we want to do is to have like conscious and sustainable purchasing decisions and help to raise awareness on sustainable textile consumption in Germany. What we also do is work on an EU level. We have EU Team Euro initiatives to improve the coordination, and so we're trying on with a lot of actors and stakeholders all over the world, and here in Europe and also in Germany, to get ahead, because we think this is a very important question for development and also for sustainability. So thank you so much.
Thank you. One of the key words of the last years is this multi-stakeholder dialogue, and of course your ministry, you can be, in my opinion, you can be proud, because this Textilbündnis was the first initiative, and it was running over 7 years now, and for me it is a successful story. Some guys say, okay, no, we can go quicker, but it's not easy to, and yeah. for me it is, to be honest, it is impressing, and yeah, looking forward to the future, and yeah, maybe later we will, let's go a bit deeper. Henrik, you gave us some more general statements, but now I want to go a bit deeper and more. That's what I said before. Applied means let's discuss praxis, and yeah, I'm sure you're already adjusting to the regulations, but I'm interested what of these regulations annoys you, what makes you headaches, and what of these is let me say easy to manage for you in your big company.
First of all, legislation has not to please us. So I'm not here to say this annoys me. This is not pick and choose the legislation that you would like. So the biggest issue for us is translating the thinking, the way of working that we have in production to the sales markets. And here's why. The regulations we have on how to be, let's say, transparent with your suppliers, how to talk to them, how to make sure they fulfill the reporting, this is what our colleagues in production have been doing for more than 30 years, right? So the biggest issue for us is translating these hundreds of data set points into something that makes sense here. So the issue is not for us to say who are our suppliers. We know exactly who are our suppliers. We show it. We are transparent about it. The question is not where do our products come from. The question is also not how are they produced? We know exactly how they are produced. The problem more is to get all those data in the right funnel into the right system of saying, this makes sense in Germany, this makes sense in France, this makes sense in Spain, and so forth. So the question for us now is, and really smart people are working day and night on this, to make sure we get the data that we have and make sure they're usable.
So I'm sure you will agree when Susan and me talk about this paradigm shift that is absolutely necessary to get information, completely information.
Yes.
Yeah, and in one hand to get information. Later on, we will talk about how increase better working condition, for example. That must be an intention, not to look for 1 and 2 and 3 audits, but to work with them. I'm sure this is one of the intention we have to work. Later on, we will have time enough for dialogues and discussion. Before we come to this, Andreas, when we are planning this event, we were talking. We were thinking, we have to talk with big companies, but in our daily practice, of course, we work with more medium. Mittelstandsunternehmen in Germany, and a lot of these people say to us, no, this is not yet relevant for us. But in the end, in case of the Lieferkettengesetz, they get closer and closer because these companies get more question and come closer to these regulations. And what I always say, it's better to act than to react. So my question is, if in one hand the regulations are not directly relevant for you, but what we realized, you are now starting to adapt them, and let's go deeper in praxis, how much contact does it need with your in dialogue with your supplier? You give one sample, and Henrik, you were talking in the same way. It needs discussion. How do you work? How do you handle this, Andreas?
Well, the most important stakeholder again is our customer, because they will require it from us. Because although we are beneath the threshold, and officially we would not be asked to do all this regulation, but of course we are a supplier. We are part of the value chain, and that's why we have to not only react. We have to be on the game and get our head around it, and comply. And what we were hoping is that we are doing a lot of things in any other areas. Also, some of our big customers already ask from us a lot of audit and corrective action plans, a lot of things that we are doing already, whatever they're called. And maybe we can find a common denominator to maybe get a waiver on the one or the other things, because they are already audited in a company like us, and not to do it over and over again. And that's where it creates simply additional cost for a medium-sized company. And then when we, regarding to your question, talking to our suppliers, I mean, we are a smaller company. Many of our suppliers are even smaller companies than us, yarn dyeing companies. And when we asked them, how do you feel about the Lieferkettengesetz or other certificates, then they said, yes, but face value also, can I afford it to do all of that? It's going to cost money, it's going to cost complexity. And this is something where we have to find our way, work together. How can we also support them? Because I think it only works if we all do it together. But some of the smaller guys will need some help.
Yeah, this is very important to be in a dialogue, isn't it? For deeper understanding, and it is a big challenge for companies, of course. So then you were talking about different aspects and regulation. You were talking about Green Deal, taxonomy, footprints, and in the end the reporting and so. And what do you say? Which of the upcoming regulations do you consider most important? Can you make a priority, or is it too simple to think?
That was my question. Do I need to choose one?
Yeah.
No, but I think, of course, the digital product passport, that is something that is very important, that is coming up. But also the content of the material, which is connected, of course, but the labeling, and also what kind of material the product is containing when you are designing the new version. So that the design, so that is also something that will come, designing for a circular economy from the beginning, to do the right thing from the beginning. So I think that is number one, the digital passport, product passport.
How is the idea, or how is the motivation to this corporate sustainability reporting directive in Sweden? How do you think? How do brands think about it?
I mean, of course, if you are working towards being more sustainable, and to make this description maybe into that, is also to be seen as a positive thing, as Andreas was mentioning here with the USP, that you also can use that as something, as a good sales information or something, to get to bring the company in a good position.
Is there a deeper discussion? Because that was, Henrik, I gave you my story with my first report then, but and then, in the end, to be honest, when we had the results from the first report, that was, I had a very positive effect, because not only to talk about uniqueness and so on, but what I learned is the report gave us some some, let me say, some key performance indicators, so that we learned to do better managing this sustainability. And is there any discussion on this level? How do you think?
I think that is something that will come actually, because this key performance measurements are a really good guide for the company. So, but it's the trip to come there can be difficult. But when you are there and you see all the measurements, it's a really good area to maybe to take the next step.
Yeah, but interesting what you said. We have to learn to manage it.
Yeah.
We have to learn to work with it in a positive way, something like this. Yeah, I like it. One little break back when we said from the first impulses from Germany, green button and so on, and it is. Let me say, to be honest, I had some discussion that people say, okay, it doesn't make sense when Germany start with this Lieferketten-Sorgfaltspflicht, because it is a national regulation, and in the other hand, of course, it needs an EU regulation, and so, but what we realize is, for example, in the Netherlands or in France, they are on the way as well. And what we see is in Brussels, they are on the way as well. And do you see the EU as a driver in future for these parts?
Yeah, sure. Of course, the EU is an important driver, and it's just because Hendrik just said it's kind of confusing for a company who has customers in the Netherlands and France and Spain and whatever, because they have to have different regulations. Yeah. So we really need a level playing field and legal certainty for each and any one of the stakeholders. So the EU, sure, of course, there is an important driver, and we have to have the time-setting standards and international standards. It's a path we're taking together, and it needs some time. And at the other hand, what we also need is that different, governments or individual EU members take their pioneering role. And it's France, the UK, and Netherlands, and of course Germany, who led their way of doing respected due diligence laws. And I think we need those pioneers because they're driving EU ahead in a way, and also we are making our experiences, and we're dealing with the customers and with the Mittelstand, and all this experience come together in EU Parliament when for this legislation. So we need both. We need the EU, and we also need the pioneering governments of Germany and other countries like Sweden, for example. Thank you.
Can imagine, Henrik, for you must have a lot of headache in these days because the regulations in Germany, and you are working international, and how do you handle this?
My headache? No. The question really is twofold. So on the one hand, we really need to make sure everybody understands we need a European legislation, and we are really out there to try and make our case and say, please, we understand where you want to go, but please make it European. Then it's fantastic. The other part of the answer is we need to prepare for the German legislation now. So, no discussion. So there's not much headache because we need to do it. There's no discussion. But how we try to set that up is we try to find a solution that not only caters for the German needs, but later is also applicable to other countries. And that certainly would make sense. It's not a secret if you have a good pool of data and resources that you can dig into, it's easier to comply with different legislations in those countries. In short, twofold, we make sure everybody understands, please go on the European level. And second, we just try to implement the German one first and try to make it so applicable to other countries as well.
Yeah, give me a bridge, because you told me you are involved in the US, and I think maybe then that needs the next question from EU to the US, isn't it?
Yes. Well, I think talking about European standards or German standards, I think it is so important that we find a harmonized way. I think the Grüne Knopf was a very good approach, honestly speaking, but we could not apply it to our market in the UK, to France, or not talking about our North American market. So if we find a more harmonized approach to that, I think it will create that benefit, and it helps us also to have a common standard out there in the market.
Is there any dialogue in between Europe and the US, Annette? Do you know?
I think there is a dialogue, and US and EU, they should observe closely their respective legislation and learn from one another. But I think first we have to do the EU legislation, which is quite a lot of work to do, because also of data and supply chains and fashion changing so quickly, as you just said, like the people are buying at the internet, and there are a lot of complexity and fragmentation of this market. So I think we are discussing, yes, but I think things need quite a long time, and one has to be very patient, and we have to do one step after another. And it's a holistic legislation in the EU, and EU is moving forward with on human rights and environment due diligence, and it would be crucial to build a common ground on UN guiding principles on business and human rights and the OECD guidelines for multinational enterprises.
Talking a lot about headache now. Let's talk about some benefit. Andreas, what do you think, where is the potential of these regulations, talking about benefit for the companies? Do you have some ideas?
I definitely do believe that they can create benefits, and so have they created benefits in the past in other areas. I would say not to a full extent that we have created a full return on the investment, but then again, exactly what you say, we have to be persistent and have to be patient, and we have to be able to afford it also. That's important too. I think, maybe a good example was when we've been dealing to a big German with a big German soccer club who are trying to become cradle to cradle. And they are asking us to make a cradle-to-cradle fan scarf, basically. I really totally appreciate that endeavor, because what it also means is you're taking sustainability a little bit out of a niche into a mass market. Because if it comes to, we all love soccer, and it reaches everyone, basically. And even if the players will endorse that in addition, then we all understand that topic. And this soccer club, maybe to the benefits also, was able to say, like, I understand that this product also, we're going to share the cost of sustainability together on this. And this is then again where we can create a USP, the USP of sustainability to create additional values.
So then is it an EU discussion, or is it a Swedish discussion as well? What the benefits we were talking about companies, how is the awareness for the consumers? How do you think? How is the awareness in Sweden? Because later on, then I want to open the discussion, and I want to discuss with you regulations, let me say, versus incentives, for example. But before we come to this, let's come back to the awareness of how do you think the awareness of the consumers, the companies, the producers, and so on in Sweden?
I think that the awareness is different depending on what kind of organization, or if it's the consumer. But for sure, the second-hand idea, or prolonging the lifetime of the garment, is, I think, on everybody's wish list at this time, and also the consumers, and perhaps. Also to be seen that there can be different ways when we come to incentives. I think that for some people it's interesting to have this second-hand market, to have the vintage area, and that is maybe working for some consumers. For other consumers, it's more in the incentive of, for instance, renting material, so you are not doing the washing yourself, for instance, so you can rent and be more gathering those advantages. And for some people, it's also interesting to be having the possibility to repair, to upgrade. You can go into the store, your favorite store of your brands, and you can get help with the repair of shirt and buttons, for instance, or leave your shirt there and have the new shirt instead, and getting a circular economy in that way. So. I think that those kinds of handling the longevity of garments is more of interest. The awareness for consumers, I think, is in that field. In companies, of course, more and more, and we can see for some years ago, many companies had their sustainability managers, and those people were like power souls really fighting for sustainability. Now it's in another level. It's on the top floor in many companies, and there we can see a completely different drive where the sustainability and the transformation is more in the whole company, on the strategy plan for the whole company. So.
Interesting for me to realize that the industry, Swedish industry, for example, in this circular economy, is first moving. For example, the company Renew Cell, they produce this pulp for lyocell, viscose, and so on. That is interesting to see. I think Sweden is first mover. Leila, let's open this discussion a bit. I'm very interested about your questions and comments. And Leila, do we have microphones?
So we have our two lovely colleagues that have microphones on each side. So if you have a question to our keynote speakers, please just raise your hand, and then we'll bring the microphone to you. Okay, we have one in the front.
Yeah, Matthias. We're waiting for a microphone.
It's right in the middle. It's
our colleague Anna.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm Matthias Böhme, independent textile solution consultant, and I was very pleased to read in your presentation that the EEC regulation includes a ban on microplastics. And excuse me, I have to put a very naughty question towards you. What will that mean to your collection?
Deal with that. There's no question. So you might know that H&M already had a washing, how do you call that? Beutel, washing bag, thank you, that you could buy that filters the microplastic. But the question is not only do we get rid of the microplastic here, but also in production. And there we're, not only working on recycled plastics all over the place, but also on microplastics, But I have to be so honest and say the industry that we work with has to make a step also. So it's again, it's not us forbidding something. We cannot say we forbid microplastic, then it's done. We have to work with our partners and say, can we find new ways of working? Can you improve? Can we give you some time to think about the new process? But the question is not naughty. It's very relevant, and we have to solve it. But we as an industry, I'm saying, but also we as a brand.
There are no concrete alternatives you may plan to develop or have projects to do this?
I have nothing to share right now. It's all in the innovation phase. It's super early stage, and we have been searching for innovative ideas for many years. We have the Global Change Award, which you might think is just another award, but you were mentioning RenewCell, for example. We always take the best ideas, help them scale, as they say, so to make it into an H&M collection. That's always the Ritterschlag for any idea. And so the ideas on microplastic are still in the idea phase. We have to see what we can scale.
In the meanwhile, for me, it feels a little bit like staying in a living room here over the years. Thank you. But what I think maybe it's better to sit in like a kitchen, because when I was young, we had the roughest discussion in the kitchen, and so that's what I like to have now. Let's discuss and yeah.
We have another question.
Yeah. Any more question or comments, something like this?
Yes, Joachim Schirmacher. I'm also a consultant and responsible for the European Fashion Award, where Margareta van den Bosch from H&M was a long time our jury member. We discussed since over 30 years. Yes, and we discuss and discuss and discuss. And now we discussing legislation, a lot of regulations, but we have no solutions. So when I understand the EU textile strategy right, then should be until 7 years a circular economy for textiles. But right now we have a gap from 99%, and it's also written in the EU textile that we have this gap. I wouldn't call this a gap. And as far as I know, since weeks over research, there are no solutions. We have on a lab level very small ideas what we maybe can do. And that is for me, and the time pressure is so huge, and that is also when you say you have no idea what you will do with polyester. Yeah, you are one big member in the Higgs index who said polyester is the most sustainable fiber. That's ridiculous. Yeah, so that is for me the question on the politics. So we need more in this discussion, and maybe we can make the next event with somebody from the EU who is responsible and working on this field. How we can come much quicker on the one hand, and on the other hand, there's on international conferences the debates if for the Asian producer is the EU market in the future relevant or to complicate.
Do you think that the regulation is a driver in case of this, what you said?
I think there is no alternative to the regulations, because the companies had 30 years to do something, and they didn't do something. The only thing that did do was marketing and greenwashing only.
Well, of course,
with very small exceptions.
Yeah.
Yeah, and under the exceptions, under 1%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe in the end we have to agree. That's what Hendrik said. It is not white and black, and we have to agree processes. And what I always say to my students, these processes, they are not linear.
Yeah, so you're so calm, and I think it's the time is over to be calm.
I don't feel so. But anyway, is there any comment from you guys here? Or?
Feel the comment was directed to me, so I answer. No, to be honest, I feel the impatience. I can totally understand this. What I cannot understand is how you say there are just a few exceptions and the rest is greenwashing. It's just not true. If you look at the HIG index, there was painful work for decades, more than 10 years now, to work with companies to say, let's give consumers a chance to compare products across brands. Because what might sound simple is a huge endeavor to say, how can you compare a scarf from France with a scarf from H&M? What do you do as a consumer? Do you read both sustainability reports? No. You want a label that's saying this is the CO2 that was emitted, this is the water that was used, and so forth. But that just doesn't happen overnight. You can say it's too slow, yes. You can say we'd love to have more brands, yes. But the path to reach it is very, very hard. And so, whatever I agree with Rolf on this, to say textileness, could it have gone further? Yes, of course. But still, we managed to have a very diverse group, more or less intact, on discussing and advancing as fast as we can be. That you don't think is fast enough, I can feel this, I also agree. I would love to see the industry move much faster. But I'm saying it's not just the switch that you switch and say, okay, let's just increase the speed and off we go. You need so many players in one room agreeing on a certain standard and making one step. And sometimes lessons, I can assure you, if you work on this on a global level, you always have the feeling, wow, now we made 2 steps ahead, and then you always make a step back.
Yeah, in the end, for no misunderstanding, I absolutely agree. We do not have to waste time for this. And in the other hand, I think we have to go deeper, more in detail to work on tools. For example, I have my problems with the HIG index as well. So in my opinion, we need more clearer, more or different metrics, but I have my problems with the HIG index as well. So that is maybe what you, Matthias, said as well. But in the other hand, Suzanne, what you said, we need digital solutions and so on. So I absolutely agree that, but this is what we said before. This is not a one tone. This is like an accord, but yeah, in one hand, that needs this pressure, and pressure, we were talking about regulation, is it helpful? And in the other hand, we were talking about uniqueness, and so is this sustainability, is it a value driver in the end? That is a question. But before we go, yeah, Annette, sorry.
Just another aspect, because I think there are a number of stakeholders and actors actors in sustainability and sustainability regulation. It's not only big companies like H&M and EU, but it's also sustainable regulation is part of the development policy. So we are working with improving framework condition in BMZ partner countries, which is equally important because we are working, like, for example, with Pakistan and Bangladesh and India and Vietnam, and we're working on developing legal frameworks and law enforcement, combating corruption, training institutions, and we're working on infrastructure like water and chemicals and all kinds of things. And this might help coming from a different angle, but it also helps. But it needs time. One has to needs so much patience to develop something as big as this. We are working on it.
Andreas, you said in your presentation you have to bring it together. This when I started in ecology many years before, you were talking about centuries, but it's more than 30 years, to be honest. And when I started, my interest was only in ecology. But then I remember then we had this first idea of this triple bottom with economical aspects as well, and so you as a CEO of your company, you have the responsibility and you have to bring it together, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I would also say that it has to be a transition process.
Yeah.
As they say, the revolution always eats up its children. It needs to be an evolution, and maybe let's say we are a responsible company or a sustainable company. We've been trying to prove that with many different things, and we're trying to comply with some of the regulations and try to be authentic about it. We also have to have the opportunity that our company sustains. So something that motivates us basically also that the good companies sustain rather than the ones who greenwash. And this is where we have to find a system that we create this regulation becomes or turns it into a USP basically, so that the good companies prevail and some of the other companies will rather go out of business. So and we don't do sustainability for ethical reasons. Yes, personally I do, honestly speaking. But it's my biggest obligation running a medium-sized company that the jobs sustain also. That's and so that the company sustains, and that's where we have to find the right regulations. And if we turn this around from today to tomorrow and would not offer any acrylic anymore at all, we're trying to downsize it already. Our customers would not appreciate it and not acknowledge it, and we would not receive the returns. So it needs to be a transitioning process.
Yeah, I absolutely liked in your presentation to involve the employees as well. I can give you a story. Half a year before, we were in contact with an Italian company and to work together for consulting there in case of an individual definition of sustainability. And then I asked the CEO, what is your intention? Why do you do this? Is it in case of your customer because this was a fashion brand as well? And he said, yeah, in one hand, but the pressure comes inside from our employees, and that was very interesting for me. That is so that is a value driver, a very important value driver as well. So when we talk about multi-stakeholder, the employees are very important. Before I want to go deeper, maybe in case of Lieferketten-Sorgfaltspflichtengesetz, I want to go deeper, but of course I have in mind, Leila, that we have some more questions.
Exactly.
Yeah, of course.
Exactly. We have a question over here.
Thank you. Is it on? Yeah, my name is Claire Kasper. Hello, I'm a fashion designer, but I'm also busy in fashion politics here in Berlin, and I work in the Platte. And I'm just concerned a bit about another topic, the digitization. So until now, we are speaking about the provability of sustainability in the companies, and the only way until now to prove the development of sustainability is in a digital way. And Henrik also said that it's a huge amount of data which is necessary to show what the company actually is doing. And Susanna also said that she's fighting for the digital passport for the single product. And I'm just thinking, how does it look like, this digital passport? Is it an NFT? And if yes, how big is it? And how do we deal with the heat, which is going to be produced about all this digitized huge amount of data, thinking about the CO2 emissions, and how do we deal with the market of pure digital fashion? The fashion industry was experimenting with NFT fashion, which only exists in the digital way. Is this also a question which we have to focus in the next years?
Should I start? I think that this, for the next, what is coming and what is happening right now when it comes to the digital product passport is the technical setup, and how this is going to be done, and what kind of suppliers that you have to, as a company, maybe look into, and what kind of collaboration. So this is things and discussions ongoing, and of course this text that you are mentioning is that could be the case, but exactly how this will be is what is on the discussion today.
I can absolutely agree, Claire. When I remember when we started to go deeper in increasing better working conditions, we were starting to say, okay, it's not enough to have this audit, but what you said with to work with the corrective action plan to increase better. And then we had such a huge data we have to work with, and that was the beginning when we started with IT. Special IT companies, but there is absolutely a need, and there's a need for the brands as well. That means not only for social standards, that what you said, Claire, but for the complete supply chain, to have more information about starting from the fibers and all the different footprints. In my opinion, we have a too small kind of view. We're always talking only about a carbon footprint, but what about the other footprints and so on? Absolutely agree with you. So that needs, we have to handle more data in future. I think we have some more questions. Yeah.
Up there and down here. Yes, please go first.
Hi, Vreni from Fashion Changers here. I just thought it was really interesting because we talked a lot about how the industry needs to work better together. And Andreas, you told the story with your scarf and the football scarf, and said that it was such a nice way of collaborating because you actually shared the costs of how making it cradle to cradle. And then later, Henrik, I think it was really like sort of telling how you said, I have to give the people in the supply chain the time to rethink their production. And it was, isn't that like exactly the problem, that they not only need time, they would actually need H&M to say, yeah, we can share the actual cost of eliminating microplastics, and it's not us waiting for you to solve the problem, because we are the brand and we are the ones in power. And I think if we're talking about how the industry should work together, we definitely should talk more about power dynamics, because H&M as a brand has a lot of power over manufacturers, and actually, needs to be wise about it, or share costs.
Yes. Absolutely. Let me be serious. We understand that a long-term commitment with a partner can also mean that we pay for him to have time to develop new ideas. And we have been doing this for many years, that the higher you rank in our own assessment in terms of sustainability, the longer term you get a contract. And you all might know this, but the most interesting aspect for a supplier is the long-term contract. It's not a one-time thing. So we just to give you an example, besides microplastic, one example is also the water waste treatment plants. Not everybody has it, but we say, okay, if you invest in this, you will get more long-term contracts with H&M. So we make the time commitment and say we develop you as a supplier, but still just a tiny fraction of the business. The whole supply chain in this country is of course much broader, and not every supplier can work for H&M. They have to fulfill certain standards, and then we get into discussion on how to make a more long-term contract. But you're right in saying we need to share the cost.
Yeah, because I think in the end, of course, a long-term contract is better than a short-term, but that might mean that manufacturers actually can do like anything. It might not mean that they can develop further and do investments. So, I mean, of course, I know, I mean, a lot of brands give out short contracts, but that's like, yeah, I mean, of course, that's worse than a longer contract, but still might not be enough to take any investment or do further development, because it might just mean, yeah, we can actually pay our people.
Maybe Andreas, is that what you mean before, that let me say, hopping from supplier to supplier, that means that is decreasing now in case of these arguments?
Yes. Yeah, we do feel that we feel that momentum. I would say 10 years ago, supplier hopping was daily business. Now we feel also for some of the big brands we work, they are looking for longer partnerships, and we totally appreciate that. So we're a little bit back to the future here. Still, the price negotiations are still tough, but that's the nature of the beast. But as long as we can partner, like I mentioned with this fan scarf, that is something we appreciate a lot, and that also gives me the full motivation to do everything to make this project a success. You know, because it's not the Mittelstand. I speak for the Mittelstand still. It is not that our profitability rates in the textile industry are going through the roof. So we are hanging in there. So how can we share some of those costs again? Yeah.
Before we come to final statement, do we have time for one more comment or question?
Well, we have one or two questions. We can handle that. One in the front, please.
Cornelia, one more colleague of us. Hi, Cornelia.
Hello, thank you. My name is Anna Pavlicek. I'm also working for a medium-sized company in sustainability, and I'm interested in the instruments, the political ones we have in place. So my question would go to you, Annette. Do you have any indicators in place to measure the effectiveness of the Lieferketten-Sorgfaltspflichtengesetz? And since Rolf mentioned the triple bottom line in all the 3 dimensions of a sustainable development, and if so, could you mention one or two? Thanks.
I would really love to give you an example and a solution, but I think the supply chain and the textile supply chain is very complex, and it's very difficult to measure concretely where you stand and what you did. I did a lot of things before in my life. I was in charge for a number of different subjects and regions, and I think this is the most difficult thing we are facing here. It's very challenging, this monitoring and this measuring. I think we are working very hard on it. We have a cooperation with Cornell University ongoing, and we are in a deep contact with EU and also the OECD, and we're really working on it. I'm very interested because I'm always thinking about where do you spend our taxpayers' money. So I think after, I don't know, some years we have to just face questions like that. So what did you do?
Learn what works for the companies and what does not. In case of H&M, like where is it effective and efficient?
Yep. This is more a question which we try to find out with the companies themselves. We are discussing KPIs in the textile business, for example, and we have different stakeholders from the civil society and also with H&M and Mittelstands companies, and so we try our very best, but it's challenging and quite difficult.
Maybe Anna, maybe I can give you a positive
Oh,
example from practice. Can I help you, Annette? Because in our institute we have a screen for Lieferketten-Sorgfaltspflichten. This is, we trained it. We're standing behind a mirror and we trained this Lieferketten-Sorgfaltspflichtengesetz many times, but now it works. So the positive thing is the screen is for the companies to say, okay, on which level are you, and we do the screening, and then we have the results, and the next step is we give recommendations, and inside the recommendations, of course, we can manage it with KPIs. That works. So that is in the end for us this Lieferketten-Sorgfaltspflichtengesetz. Wow, one more. That is it can be a positive thing because that is like a level. You can analyze the level. We do it with 7 different parts or pillars, boxes we work in, and then you can analyze the level of, for example, medium-sized company, and then you can say, okay, this is your level from government side. Maybe this is only in 2 or 3 years, but you can see where you are. But this is, Anna, not the only positive thing. You can work with this requirement and you can manage it in case of to say, okay, here we need some more policies, here we need more processes and so on for this. And but this is a KPI in the end.
Company, I was talking more in a whole context of Germany, how effective this instrument is as an instrument, political-wise. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so we have time for one last question. Somewhere here was a hands up. Yes. And then we have to come to an end and we can continue the discussion at the networking reception.
So my name is Desiree and I work in the gold industry as a supplier for jewelry makers, close enough to the fashion industry maybe. So I think it goes towards the question that was asked before. Are we doing enough, I guess? I mean, we have all these regulations. So there is something called fair trade, and it comes with the addition of a premium also for the suppliers in developing countries, for example. And this is something they can use to further develop new techniques, for example, and gives them, of course, more stability. So I think it's maybe a nice finishing question. Are we doing enough?
Do we do enough? I think that is one of the common thread we have. Of course, we are under pressure and we have to do such a lot of things to do. Of course, I'm sure we all will agree with this. And the only thing is it positive or is it workable? And maybe this is more than. But I don't want to give. I want to give you. I want to ask you for a final statement to sum up this conversation. But before, Susan, you want to?
No, I was just thinking of answering the question. I think that you should never say that you are doing enough, but for sure a lot of things are happening, and also what has been discussed here earlier today, a lot of companies are doing really many things and trying new things. We were mentioning here Renewcell before, which actually take the opportunity to see the first Renewcell example, which is outside in the pop-up version. That was also a new, not crazy idea, but very new idea. And now it's a big company supplying to all over the world. So I think that many companies are doing a lot. But still, we are not doing enough, of course. But we have the regulations. We have to cope with those. They are there. And we have to try to see and to turn those ones into a positive pathway for the future.
How would you sum up the conversation for today, Susan?
Well, a little bit about the regulations, of course. There are many things coming, and I think that we have to still see positive for the future. There is a big challenge for us to cope with the sustainability development goals. 2030, again at 2030, is only 7 years from now, so there has to be many things done. The pandemic we can see as a big challenge even more for companies, but also some things positive from the pandemic. For instance, overproduction is a big subject in the textile and fashion industry, with more than 40%, more or less 40% overproduction. And many companies during the pandemic had to scale down their volumes, which also we can see today, where things are sold out much more. Before it was big sales, which has a little bit downsized. So I think that still, even if there are a jungle of regulations, as you mentioned, in which there are many things coming up, I think if we cope together and be open to collaborations and test new things, and looking positive for the regulations and the transparency of the value chain, I think we have a good future.
Thank you, Susan. Henrik, may I ask you for a final statement?
Are we doing enough? No. Are we confident that we can achieve it? Yes.
Well, that's a perfect final word. I would only spoil it, I have to say. But I think if everybody contributes to it, then that's what we need. We can create a value driver, and it needs to be a harmonized and a global approach.
Yeah, it needs to be a global approach. There are so many stakeholders, and I think some of them, they don't even know that they are stakeholders in this global approach, because the consumers themselves, they need to have the transparency to know how powerful they are to give, I don't know, aspects of human rights and environmental solutions to suppliers in Asia and Africa and everywhere. So I think we need a lot of communication, and I think we as a government, we have to be careful about what we demand from business actors dealing with data and bureaucracy. And are we doing enough? We're trying very hard, and we keep on trying, and we do our very best. I'm very optimistic that we go ahead, but it's a path, step by step. Very, very good discussion, very good questions, also difficult question, which I like most.
I absolutely agree. Yeah, I want to thank you not only sharing your kind of views about headache, but different opinions, and that's what we said in the beginning. We have to agree that it is a process, but that in the other hand means it is a lot of things to do, and what I have in mind, if it's not only the feeling of regulation, but it is a feeling a little bit of like incentive, that is for me very important. When people come to me and say, this is a regulation, you have to do, boy, this is boring, you know what I mean. But when I see that can be a part of a uniqueness, that can be a part of positive managing things and what we said in between with this KPIs and all these things, then I think we have to really have a chance, Annette, to work with this in a positive way. I want to thank you for sharing and for your arguments, and yeah, I want to thank you all for this, for your interest and your honest questions and yeah, comments as well. And Leila,
Yes, it's about time for the networking reception. So thank you all thank you to the speakers for coming here, for traveling here, for giving an insight. And you, the audience, will have the chance to network also with the speakers at the networking reception with live music, some Swedish snacks, and some drinks. So I hope you enjoyed. And if you have any questions or feedback, you can send us an email. Thank you so much.
yeah, thank you. Well, Leila, and thank you for all the people on